Hello and welcome. Today we have with us Prof A.H Nayyar, who is a very well-known physicist, a peace activist in Pakistan, and also, shall we say, a leading figure for arguing for the secular polity in Pakistan. Professor Nayyar, really good to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. This is a privilege.
As you know, people all over the world, as well as in India, and I'm sure people in Pakistan too, are deeply worried about the way the political events are moving in Pakistan, particularly about the fracture that seems to have taken place. There's a lot of belief that in Pakistan there is a unification of the quote-unquote, shall we say, the radical Islamist forces taking place, and what used to be earlier a fragmented movement is now coming together against the Pakistani state. Would you subscribe to that, or do you think there is still a lot of differences within and the threat is not as much as it is supposed to be?
No, threat is very grave. I think Pakistan is in a very, very grave situation. And if this threat is not confronted now, it is going to be very difficult to deal with it in future. The fragmentation of the Islamic politics in Pakistan is real and is continuing, because there is this religious factionalism in Islam also, and people subscribe very heavily to their own sect and sectoral philosophy. The threat is coming essentially from a very, very puritanical faction among the Islamic politics, which is actually which was armed and used to wage war in Afghanistan and then in Kashmir and then elsewhere, and which also has had its own war theaters in Chechnya, in Algeria, in Indonesia, in many parts of the world, and this is the situation in Pakistan is bad because this faction now thinks that it is poised to take over the state of Pakistan, that it can actually come in and become the rulers of this land, where it can enforce its philosophy, which is Sharia, enforce Sharia of its own kind, and run this state, and then from there spread out to other parts of the world. But they are not going unchallenged from other Islamic sects. The Barelvi sect, for example, which is around shrines and so on, is very strongly opposed to them. There are others also who don't subscribe to this philosophy. They are so this faction is so strongly so puritanical that they have actually excluded even those political parties which could be their friends. So in that sense, they don't have a universal adherence in Pakistan, and they see opposition from within Islamic sects. There was this an example. There is usually every year there is this Tablighi Jamaat congregation in Pakistan. It is also held in Bangladesh. I think it is held in India also. And it attracts nearly a couple of million people. And usually it cuts across sectoral divides, except for Shias. They're mostly Sunnis. And one congregation was held last week in Raiwind, and they spoke against these jihadis. I think that was very, very significant.
So apart from the secular opposition, there is also within Pakistan a strong Islamic identity-based politics, but opposed to this kind of jihadi elements.
Yes,
you know, the interesting part from what you were saying earlier is that while they were sort of looking at Pakistan as a base to spread out across other parts of the world, this was done actually as a part of a compact with perhaps the Pakistani state, or at least within a section of the Pakistani state. That compact is right now broken.
This is indeed true. I think one comforting element in it is that compact seems to have finally broken. These elements, these jihadis are now attacking Pakistani forces. Like anything, and Pakistani forces are also attacking them very brutally. So there seems to be now, well, we would like to believe that it is broken. The point is that I think Pakistani state may not, all the elements in Pakistani state may not have come out of this old thinking. And in fact, some very recent developments may have again reinforced that thinking. And that is because the US very recently asked Pakistan to mediate with the Taliban in Afghanistan. And once the moment US did this, Pakistanis realized, and everybody realized, that yes, the Taliban actually can be assets to Pakistan in the geopolitics of the region. And therefore they were those elements who always said, don't touch them, in fact then said, oh yeah, didn't we tell you? So that actually may have, such a thing may create problems for Pakistan.
So would you say that the fact that there is this so-called section of the Taliban which is said to be quote-unquote moderate could be looked upon as assets, and therefore the old thinking, as you said, with the Pakistani state, that some section of the jihadis could be aligned to us, other sections we need to sort of isolate, that kind of thinking might come back?
Well, nearly that kind of thinking. I think my own understanding is that Pakistani state still regards Mullah Umar as a very friendly figure, Mullah Umar as a guarantee of a friendly Afghanistan on the Western Front, Mullah Umar as a guarantee against Indian attempts at destabilizing Pakistan from the West. And therefore they are not, although they have many other Taliban factions who are on the on friendly relations, but they eventually think that Mullah Umar commands more respect and greater following, and if they have Mullah Umar with them, and I think they also read that the US may actually eventually agree to giving some role to play in to Mullah Umar to play in Afghanistan.